Fucking hell.
Fuck.
Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck.
Idiot. Alright, I've got some explaining to do. Now, I just went to the engine shop. They quoted me about 8 grand to rebuild the engine, and that is not what I was expecting. I was expecting something more like 2 or 3. To their credit, they want to do it right. I was thinking they could just give it a quick refresh, throw some bearings at it, and job would be done. But anyway, I think that's too over the top. That engine will end up being worth more than the car, so there's no point in doing that. But the point is, I've got enough parts here to rebuild an engine. It won't be anything like an engine shop's going to do. You're probably going to be screaming at your screen right now for what you're about to see. I'm prepared to waste this time if it ends up being a waste of time. I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to bring you along with me. I've talked long enough, so let's start cleaning it up and chucking it together. Alright, just use some sandpaper and a sharpening stone. Now if you look closely you can see some pitting in here, and yeah, I'm winging it. Now there was all this black stuff on top as well, and I remember that being on the bottom of the head, and I've just checked the new head gasket and it's got that similar black looking stuff, so I'm fairly confident that's going to take up any imperfections in the deck and in the head surface. These little things out in order to clean the deck, but they only go in one way. There's a little step in 2 of these holes. Now the head gasket's only going to go on one way because of this hole for one of the oil galleries. Alright, there it is. Now our tightening sequence is starting from the middle, working our way out, and zigzagging as you do it. Now I'm just going to run these most of the way home, then finish them off with a torque wrench. Alright, first stage is tightening these to 39 Newton meters. Starting from the middle, working our way out. Alright, that should be all of them, so I'm going to check them. Now the second stage is 90 degrees. Following the sequence, and then the third stage is another 90 degrees following the sequence. So I'm just going to mark all of these. I'm going to mark them pointing towards the back so that by the time we're done they should all be pointing towards the front. Now I need to tighten this camshaft down. I'm going to do that gradually and slowly. Now before I tighten that down, I'm just going to make sure the pistons are at top dead center. I'm going to go half a turn at a time. I don't want to snap this crankshaft. These get tightened to 18 Newton meters. Alright, I'm going to flip this over and glue the sump on. Alright, it's a new day. Yesterday I got the turbo on and a new dump pipe on. And now I'm going to put the manifold on. And I've just relocated my EGT. The EGT used to be somewhere about here. But it's better to have it before the turbo than after. So while the manifold was off, I could clean it out. And now it's good to go back on. Now, in the name of saving money, I'm just going to use a lot of gasket maker and reuse the old gaskets. Alright, these get 52 Newton meters. Tell you what, you should have probably put that pipe on before you put the manifold on. You can get it in there barely. I did have to bend that bracket a bit, but it would have just been easy to do it right in the first place. Alright, here's the progress so far. We've got our water pipes back on. One of them bolts to the back of the head there. EGT is relocated. Keep in mind you got to clear these bolts. I got lucky, I forgot about those pipes, sorry. And I had to bend this one just a whisker. But that's all in. Turbo's good to go, water pipes are on. I'll jump over to the other side now. Alright, got my injectors rebuilt. Now, these are important, these are flame washers. Make sure you've only got one in there. I've already pulled my old ones out. And these washers here are for the return. So we'll chuck these in, put the manifold on, and then we can do the front of the engine and do everything timing related. Alright, I couldn't find a torque spec on these, so I'm just going to do them snug, same way you would do a spark plug. Okay, good morning. Here's where we are at. Last night I just finished buttoning up everything, and this morning I've given the engine a quick wash and I've swapped over the block sensors. So 1, 2 and 3. Here's what they look like. So from left to right we've got a water temp sensor that lives here, oil pressure which lives here next to the oil filter, and then a NOx sensor which lives here. Now all that's left is to service the back of the engine, which is a rear main seal and a spigot bearing. All of this is buttoned up except the thermostat, because I just hosed all that out. So I can do the thermostat and thermostat housing as well now. And then the clutch release bearing, throwout bearing, whatever you like to call it, I will do that, and I will remove the factory exhaust because there's a new one on my roof rack, which is a 3-inch, so I'll be putting that on sometime. I at least have to get the old one out of the way. Okay, I've just put a bit of petroleum jelly on that O-ring. That should help seal it without the need for gasket maker. Pay attention to how you pull this out. I didn't, so I'm just going to leave the jiggle valve facing 12 o'clock. I'm sure it'll be fine. Alright, that's how easy it is to take your clutch release bearing off. Just these clips, there's a groove in the selector of the fork. Anyway, this is cactus. You can hear that. This is what a good one sounds like. So we'll clean it up a little bit. Put a bit of grease on it, not too much grease. There we go. Fucking hell. So I'm just replacing this bearing. This is a spigot bearing puller. This is a spigot bearing. And these arms kind of go in and you tighten down on this section and it'll open up. And then as I tighten this nut here, it'll pull the whole thing out. There we go. Alright, this here is just a normal screw. Alright, I got this resting against the engine crane so I can torque down these flywheel nuts and bolts. Just fucking cracked the crank pulley loose. Alright, we want the flywheel and the pressure plate to be as clean as possible. So I've just got some acetone here. You could use brake cleaner, I've run out. Now this would be the perfect opportunity to machine your flywheel and replace your clutch, but I already did that less than a year ago, so there's no need to do it again. But a good rule of thumb is if it's more than 50% worn out, you should replace it while it's easy. Alright, we've got our clutch aligning tool in here. Now you just want to push that in and make sure it's square, and then that way it'll be easy to drop the engine in and line it up with the input shaft. And then you just want to gradually tighten these up evenly.
Fuck.
You fuck.
That was a close one.
There's no torque spec for these in the book, so about 3 ugga-duggas will do it. 4 will snap the bolt. the engine's in. If you think that looks incredibly inefficient, that's because it was. Now keep in mind, I don't have much height here. I never intended on swapping the engine out anyway. I had to use the straps to get it in, and then the straps slipped on the crane, which made things hard, and then I just dropped the engine in the completely wrong spot just so I could change from the straps to the engine leveler. If I had have gone with the engine leveler straight away, I would have hit the garage door and I would never have gotten the engine over the rad support. So it's in. I had to take the dump pipe off to get past the bell housing. So now that that's all in place, I put the dump pipe back on and I'm ready to just start bolting things back up. Engine mounts and bell housing. And then from there it's just all the accessories that we took off in the first place. So I'll power through this and yeah, run through the preparation for the first start once it's all connected up. Alright, it's ready to go. I've pulled the glow plugs out and I've cracked the connections to the injectors, and I'm just going to crank it over, build up some oil pressure, bleed out those fuel lines a little bit, and then once I've cranked it over for a little bit and it all sounds normal, I'll slap those glow plugs back in, tighten up those injectors, see if it'll run, and then if it's running I'll bleed the injectors, put some coolant in it and take it for a test drive. Idiot. Alright, here we go. First start. Alright, hopefully it keeps running. Alright, I'm going to wrap this episode up here. Now, the Hilux isn't in the garage anymore. I did drive it for about 4 hours to pick up this spare motor. And everything you would have just seen is not exactly the proper way to do it, but I had a good enough bottom end. I was willing to take a risk on that, and I had a head that was spare. I didn't use the brand new head, so if the motor that's in the car ends up blowing up, it's only really cost me a head gasket and the 400 bucks I spent on the bottom end. And with that said, I've got a spare motor right here. Now I'm going to continue to dive into the 1K ZTE motor. I've got this block here. Now that piston had low compression, that's what started this whole mess. I will continue disassembling that. I've already disassembled parts of it, which you might have seen in this video and previous videos. But we're going to get this down to the bare bones, really go into it. And then I'm going to practice honing on this block, see if we can restore those cylinder walls. I've got spare fuel pumps coming out my ears. I'll look at both of them, look at the differences, we'll talk about resistor mods. Lastly, we might go over diagnostics, warning lights, things like that. I did have a warning light pop up when I first started the car, but I had somewhere to be and I was committed to taking my Hilux with me, so I didn't film that because I was just trying to figure out what was going on. Fixed it up, and then it didn't throw any signals or warnings or codes on the 200 kilometer round trip that I drove it on straight off the bat. So those are some videos you can look forward to. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you're looking forward to those videos, if you want to learn about the resistor mod, because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there and there's no good one spot to figure out what to do. So I'm going to make a quick video on how to do the resistor mod. But anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see those videos. You'll see them when they come out. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. So we can open this up.